Patreon, it's alive, alive, live, alive, live, alive. Patreon, it's alive, alive, horror podcast. Patreon, it's alive, alive, live, alive, live, alive. Patreon, it's alive, alive, horror podcast.
Hey kids, can't get enough of that blood, guts and gore? Then head on over to our Patreon, where for just $5 a month you'll get exclusive access to our true crime show Real Monsters and horrific history tales from Playing with Bones with Aimee Rose, along with early access to our minisodes and ad-free access to everything else. All this and loads more horror-tastic extras from the Horrorverse. So what are you waiting for? Permission? Go nick your parents' card today and subscribe now at patreon.com/It's Alive Alive Pod. Remember, that's It's Alive Alive Podcast, a really, really fake true crime horror podcast. It's Alive Alive, all the guts and gore with none of the guilt. Warning, this podcast contains heavy spoilers for not just one movie, but entire franchises. We highly recommend going and watching these movies before listening to us as a companion piece that stitches all the timelines into one creepy, crime-ridden story. There will be no more spoiler warnings. We do not break character. After this, there is no turning back. You've been warned. Hit the music.
You are talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
It's alive! It's alive!
This one is about 10 years old from Reddit.
Okay.
And it's by a user called iPanGB. I don't know if it's still on here, 10 years ago. 3 vampires are having a competition to prove who's the most vicious vampire amongst them.
Okay.
The strongest one started first. Watch this, he said, and he flies really fast, about 100 miles per hour off into the sky.
Okay.
After only 10 minutes, he comes back with blood all over his mouth. What happened, they ask. Did you see that house over there? Yes. Well, I killed the entire family and sucked the blood dry. Wow, fascinating, as expected from the strongest vampire. Mm. Then the eldest one takes the next turn. Watch and learn, he said, as he flies even faster, about 120 miles per hour. After only 5 minutes, he comes back with blood all over his mouth and neck. What happened, he asked. Did you see that village over there? Yes. Well, I killed every last person in that village and sucked the blood dry. Wow, magnificent, truly amazing. We can expect no less from the eldest one. Finally, the last turn belonged to the fastest one. Don't blink or you'll miss it, he said, as he flies really fast, even faster than the other two, about 140 miles per hour. After only a mere 30 seconds, he comes back with blood all over his mouth, his neck and his nose. What happened, they ask. Did you see that big ass tree over there? Yes. Well, I didn't. Hello and welcome to It's Alive Alive Podcast. This is a true crime paranormal interstellar podcast covering unbelievable stories that sound like they were ripped straight from the pages of a Hollywood script. I'm your host, the man of many names, the outlaw Harley Ray, the bruiser Bronson, Dr. HR, Smoking THD, or you can call me Josh for short. And with me as always is my very own Scream Queen, the perfect combination of beauty and brains, the bride, the Smoking D&D horror expert, the guts and gore, the gorgeous, the sexy Aimee Rose.
Hi.
And this is an Aimee Rose episode.
It's a rare episode.
A rare episode. Well, you're always so busy with Playing with Bones, and you're doing a good job over there, so I usually handle this stuff, because the rest of it just handles itself. Yep. Or so we think it does. But you have a few episodes this year, and this is the first. No, this is not your first this year.
This year, yeah.
Is it?
I think so.
You definitely did one this year.
I don't think so. I don't think I did.
Oh, well, see, your first episode of Playing with Bones was an official first episode.
That's what my first
It's
episode
Alive.
was. Yeah.
But you've got a few coming up over the next few months.
I do.
That I'm looking forward. There's a 3-week block of just you.
Of just me?
Just you. Before I go into my big one for the year.
Refresh my memory. Is that next? You start working on it.
Huh?
Is that next? Is it not
it's like
next?
September.
But like that's my next one. Is that 3 weeks?
I think I don't know. I have
Okay,
to look
cool.
at the schedule.
Cool.
So what do you got in store? Well, obviously, from my joke at the start, people can tell generally what we're getting into this week.
Generally. Well, vampires, obviously, and one vampire in particular.
Okay.
So we'll go because, as in, out of all the vampire stories that we have, this one is backed up by journals and letters and strange goings-on reported in newspapers. Has doctors involved. So, as in, it's fairly well backed up in comparison to other vampire stories.
So whereas you've basically found one with some evidence to it.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. Well, some evidence. It's still probably not a vampire.
Probably not a vampire, but a lot of people kind of can corroborate that it may have been a vampire.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
intrigued.
okay. So I'll start with Jonathan Harker. So Jonathan Harker, he was a solicitor in London. And he was a solicitor for a man by the name of Count Dracula, who lived in Transylvania when the Count wanted to buy land in Whitby in England.
Okay.
So he had to travel to Transylvania to, for papers to be signed and all that, because there's no emails and all that jazz back in like 1893.
I got friends from Transylvania.
Yeah?
Legitimately, yeah. Tibor's from Transylvania.
Is he from Transylvania?
Pretty sure.
I
I
did
think
not know
originally
that.
from Transylvania.
Class.
I think Cosmo might be from Transylvania as well. I'm not 100% sure. They're all Romanian, like.
Cool.
But
I know they're Romanian.
Tibor is because he played into it a bit.
Well,
He
Timor
likes
did,
it.
yeah. No,
He loves the whole Transylvania thing. I remember when he was working in the tattoo studio, he even had a box set of actually, funny enough, a box set about this guy Dracula.
Yeah,
There was a
I
DVD
remember
box
that.
set in the tattoo studio.
I think I remember
I never
that.
watched it, so you're gonna enlighten me here. But it was all about the history and mythology around this that had been built around this guy Count Dracula. So,
Okay, cool.
so I never watched the DVD, so you can tell me about it instead.
I will. I intend to. So we can tell from the first kind of few entries from May the 1st on 1893 in Jonathan Harker's journals that once he gets to Transylvania, to Romania, when he's kind of on his way, things are a bit weird. He comes across a village and they're all like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going to see Count Dracula. And they start blessing him and they hand him crucifixes.
See, if the villagers start telling you to fuck off, you need to fuck off. We learned this way back in Summeride.
Oh, yeah.
The Wicker Man. Once the weird villagers start saying you shouldn't be going this way, don't go that way. Go home.
Exactly.
Just pack it in.
Yep. So he actually said in his journal as well that when he got a coach up to Count Dracula's castle, that he thought he heard the coachman say the word vampire. To me, that's like saying your Uber driver here murder. You know, it's not a good sign. You jump back out. But he also said that. I will point out.
I can kind of see that if you're in a taxi and it's just like, so where are you going? I'm just going down to the estate down there, number 44. Serial killer!
Yeah, exactly.
Serial killer!
Exactly.
Do you know what? Take me home. Thanks.
Now, at some point in his stay in Romania, I'll point out just before I go into things that he said that he's seen, he reportedly contracted a brain fever. And he stayed with a group of nuns in a convent once he found his way out of Count Dracula's castle. So
he got the fever before he went into this castle.
Well, I'm just pointing out that maybe he might have been brewing it before he went into the castle.
So this could all be hallucinations from
some
the
of
fever.
it. Yeah. I mean, like he said that he saw the same coach ride where he thought the man said vampire. He also saw dogs and wolves. He heard them howling, but he also saw blue flames around these dogs and wolves.
This guy, was his water spiked? Or is this like the whole Salem thing where they think the food was giving them an acid trip? The crops. But I think they proved that to be false in the end. But they thought that was mass hysteria brought on by some chemical change in their crops that was causing them to have LSD like.
Oh, like the dancing plague. Yeah, nearly identical. Well, actually, do you know what? That's a fair point because when Harker gets to the castle, and he meets Count Dracula, he describes him as very thin and pale and kind of tall.
Mr. Burns, like.
Mr. Burns,
the tall part.
Exactly. But he invites him to dinner, and Harker eats but he noted in his journal that Dracula did not touch one bite while he was eating.
So what kind of guy is this Dracula guy? Is he?
He's extremely wealthy.
Where does his money come from? Do they know it's just old money?
He's not sure because although he's really wealthy, he doesn't have any servants and he doesn't have any mirrors. Like there is nothing like reflective, shiny surfaces that you think of. Like, I mean, like you go into the palace in Versailles and they're like loaded and like they've got mirrors everywhere and bright reflective.
Maybe
surfaces.
he's rich because he's too cheap to pay for anything.
That could be it as well. He has a library as well that was filled with English books, which Harker thought he was a bit odd because he could speak English, but he wasn't too sure if he could read English.
Why? What would make him think that? Why would he assume that? Why would you look at someone and be like, he speaks English well, but bet he can't read it? He
was a solicitor that needed to travel across to explain these court documents
to
this man.
Maybe.
Well, yeah. He was gone for most of the day during Harker's stay there, but he'd always come to him and sit with him at night. But he loved talking about his ancestors at night and where he came from. And he clung to the fact that he was a descendant of Vlad the Impaler.
Ooh, I know about Vlad.
Go on,
One second. So Vlad III, commonly known as Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Dracula, was voivode of Wallachia 3 times between 1448 and his death in 1476-77. He is often considered one of the most important rulers in Wallachian history and a national hero of Romania. How could you be a hero? And then they're giving out about Columbus going to America and doing shit.
He did.
He is often considered one. Oh yeah, sorry. He was the second son of Vlad Dracula, who became the ruler of Wallachia in 1436. Vlad and his younger brother Radu were held as hostages in the Ottoman Empire in 1442 to secure their father's loyalty. Vlad's eldest brother Mircea and their father were murdered after John. I seriously God was about to say Hyundai. Honeydeh, a reagent governor of Hungary, invaded Wallachia in 1447. John, we're not going to bother with his second name, installed Vlad's second cousin, Vladislav II, as the new voivode. John launched a military campaign against the Ottomans in the autumn of 1448, and Vladislav accompanied him. Vlad broke into Wallachia with Ottoman support in October, but Vladislav returned and Vlad sought refuge in the Ottoman Empire before the end of the year. Vlad went to Moldavia in 1449 and 1450 and later to Hungary. Relations between Hungary and Vladislav later deteriorated, and in 1456 Vlad invaded Wallachia with Hungarian support. Vladislav died fighting against him. Vlad began a purge among the Wallachian boyars to strengthen his position. He came into conflict with the Transylvanian Saxons who supported his opponent, Dan and Basarab Lyota, who were Vladislav's brothers. Seriously? Basarab and Vladislav, and you end up being called Dan?
I thought that.
Vlad's a legitimate half-brother. Vlad, I'm not even going to try that surname. Vlad plundered the Saxons' village, taking and captured people to Wallachia, where he had them impaled, which inspired his name. The Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II ordered Vlad to pay homage to him personally, but Vlad had the Sultan's 2 envoys captured and impaled. He fucking loves sticking stuff on spikes.
He absolutely does.
Yeah, it's amazing that it's the Turkish that came up with kebabs and not fucking.
Maybe that's why they came up with kebab.
In February 1462, he attacked the Ottoman territory, massacring tens of thousands of Turks and Muslim Bulgarians. So that's how the Turks found out about kebabs. Mehmed launched a campaign against Wallachia to replace Vlad with Vlad's younger brother Radu. Vlad attempted to capture the Sultan at Targoviste. Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
During the night of the 16th to 17th of June 1462. The Sultan and the main Ottoman army left Wallachia, but more and more Wallachians deserted to Radu. Vlad went to Transylvania to seek assistance from Matthias Corvinus, king of Hungary, in 1462, but Corvinus had him imprisoned. Vlad was held captive in Vizgard from 1463 to 1475. During this time, stories about his cruelty started to spread in Germany and Italy. He was released at the request of Stephen III of Moldavia in the summer of 1475. He fought in Corvinus's army against the Ottomans in Bosnia in early 1476. Hungarian and Moldovan troops helped him to force Basarab Lyota Who had dethroned Vlad's brother Radu to flee from Wallachia in November? Basarab, that's right as well, isn't it? Basarab, yeah. Returned with Ottoman support before the end of the year. Vlad was apparently killed in battle before the 10th of January 1476. Now they say that this is kind of the opposition said he was dead, but there's no confirmation here, is there? There's no body.
And
no body, no murder, no case.
When we get on in the story, we will hear from a doctor of what's the word? Of not specialized diseases, but like rare diseases, who will allege that maybe he didn't die and he is running around somewhere as a vampire.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, books describing Vlad's cruel acts were among the first bestsellers in the German-speaking territories. In Russia, popular stories suggested that Vlad was able to straighten his central government only by applying brutal punishments, and many 19th century Romanian historians adopted a similar view. But you reckon he's still around the place?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, like, I think, like, you know, like the evidence here, and it's first-hand evidence. Maybe somebody might be sick, but yeah, it's kind of convincing when you look at everything together. Like, so, so the things that Harker accuses the Count of, why he's staying there, is a bit kind of nuts. He said that one night he was shaving himself, and the Count came in, and he happened to nick himself a tiny bit. And next thing, he like catches him by the neck, but then he sees his crucifix, and he's all like, oh, but he was like looking at it like a vampire would, like. And I mean, like, vampires have been around for centuries.
Well, I was going to say that. Is there any chance this guy was just an eccentric kind of one of these vamp kid weirdos?
Maybe he was lonely.
Playing up to it a little bit.
Maybe he was lonely. Maybe he was moving to England because there weren't many people in Transylvania.
Well, then he should have hired the staff with his money instead of keeping the fucking place all quiet and empty. That was by choice.
Yeah, that was by choice.
It sounds like a guy who's just like,
maybe he couldn't keep staff because he did have a thing for blood.
Maybe. That's a weird. Is that a sexual fetish? It's not a fucking legal one anyway. I don't think.
I don't know what the law is
Jeffrey
regarding.
Dahmer used to get off on it.
He used to drink it.
Yeah, he used to drink it. I mean, obviously, we talk about Richard Chase and Mini Monsters and Real Monsters this week, and that guy fucking loved the blood. Obsessed with blood. All he could talk about was fucking blood. Hence why he was the vampire of Sacramento.
Yeah.
And there was someone else. Oh, no, the vampire of Dusseldorf. What was his name again? Jesus Christ, I had to cover. No. He's the Russian guy.
Oh.
The vampire of Dusseldorf.
Arthur Fish? French?
No.
Curtin?
No, that's Albert Fish you're thinking of.
Curtin.
Oh, yeah, Curtin, you're right. You are right.
Albert Thomas, I don't know.
Vampire of
Curtin.
Peter Curtin.
Peter Curtin.
I covered him without you because that was pretty
nasty. That was one of the ones that I couldn't sit in on here.
But, so, I mean...
Yeah.
There are plenty of these blood lovers out there.
There are. But you know what's really convincing to me, even if it is the ravings of a madman? Apparently, not a madman, of a sick man. Apparently, the Count through his shit, like, do you know the way they used to have, like, you know, like, they'd be shaving and there was a tiny glass mirrors?
Yeah.
And that was called a shaving glass, but apparently he fucked the shaving glass out the window.
Didn't want any mirrors.
So it wasn't.
But if he was playing up, wouldn't he be like that anyway? That sounds like.
But I mean, that just kind of like confirmed it though. Does it not, like, you know, like, it wasn't a thing of he was too cheap to spend money on mirrors.
Okay.
It was that he
I have
didn't
an
want money on
argument here,
mirrors.
right?
Okay.
If a vampire is real and they have no reflection, what do they give a fuck if there's a mirror in their house or not? Whereas, if you were pretending to be a vampire and claiming to have no reflection, you would throw all the mirror. You would want no mirrors in your house to disprove your point.
Because if you're standing beside somebody who's looking into a mirror, that means that they should be able to see you standing beside them. And he didn't want anybody to know that he was a vampire.
But if I was a vampire, I wouldn't give two shits who fucking knew. It's like, what are you going to do? Do you know?
Stake you through the heart or cut your head off, apparently.
Good luck, fucking fire. Aren't vampires like superhuman strength? At least
but they're not during the day, so you can like open up their coffin during the day and nab them.
Blade was able to go out during the day.
Blade is a different story altogether.
Exactly. Well, he was a daywalker.
That's what I'm saying. So there's no comparison. Anyway, at this stage in Jonathan's journal, he reckons he's a prisoner. He reckons that, you know, this is a crazy man and he's a vampire and I can't get out of here.
So he's losing his mind while he's in there.
He's losing his mind while he's in there. Now, meanwhile...
Now, I would imagine if you're in like a foreign country, in a big castle with nobody else in there bar this one weird old man, and you have a very bad fever and you're hallucinating, you're probably going to have a bad trip.
Yeah,
probably not going to be a pleasant time while you're there.
True. But...
And Romania is a very gothic style to them as well. So all you can imagine that castle as well is going to be gargoyled up and fucking all creepy looking and you know, that cold brick kind of look about it and all that kind of stuff and rickety fucking old stairs and stuff. It's going to play on you, like, because they do like that gothic style over there, like, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. But then again, to counteract then, like what I was saying about maybe the illness was starting to brew, so I really don't know. He sent a letter to his fiancée on the 9th of May, and he was like, I'm fine, I'm well, I'm coming back in a week. Letting her know that he got to Transylvania, but according to this letter, he was feeling fine.
Okay.
Do you know? So, but this his fiancée, her name was Mina, and her best friend was Lucy. Okay. So Lucy was engaged to Arthur Holmwood, and she kind of had 3 suitors, and they kind of played.
Question.
Yeah.
I don't think we cleared this up at the start. What time period is this?
I said 1893.
Oh, cool. Sorry. Continue.
Okay, cool. Are you sure, or would you like to go back to sleep?
I'm in the way back, Rashida, going in there in the DeLorean. I'm on my way back there right now. I'm here.
Right.
In Transylvania. Sorry, what year?
1893.
1893. I'm right here in the 90s. All right.
Cool. We're actually back in England, though, at the
Ye
moment.
old Spice Girls are on the fucking radio.
Anyway, one of her potentials before she got engaged, Lucy, the best friend, before she got engaged to her fiancé, Arthur, was a man called Dr. John Seward, and he owned the Seward Sanitarium. And in the Seward Sanitarium was a man by the name of Renfield, and he was like batshit. There's some stories that say that before Harker took up the position as solicitor for Count, that Renfield, like, he was his predecessor.
He was the solicitor beforehand.
Yeah.
And being his solicitor drove him crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And now he was locked up in the sanatorium.
So these are second Englishman to come over there to travel to Transylvania. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently. There's other stories that say that he was just a delusional man that had a thing for pets and eating animals and stuff like that, because he started off...
Renfield or Dracula?
Renfield.
He liked eating pets?
Yeah. So, okay. He had flies.
He sounds like more like he's the vampire, because this is how Richard Chase used to start fucking...
I know, but he used to keep flies, okay? And he used to keep them as pets. And he used to eat them and stuff like that. Well, Mina knew John Seward, so if she was around...
How do you keep a fly on a pet? Does he have him like on a leash flying around the place and stuff?
No, I think you might keep him in a box. Yeah, how do you wing them?
You used to see that in cartoons when we were kids. They'd always, not always, but if you had like a cartoon where the kids are all playing in the summer, you'd have like one guy who might fucking talk about... They tie the rope onto the fucking fly, and the fly is flying away. No, I don't know how you do that without fucking crushing the fly. Or
I don't think you do. I presume you put it into a box.
But yeah.
But either way, he would keep them as pets, and he kept them as pets for a while. And then Seward was like, "You can't really be keeping the flies as pets," so he'd eat a few of them. And then the next thing, he was like,
fucking choice. I will love you forever or eat you.
I know, but it gets worse than that again, because Seward was like, "You can't be eating the flies." So he's like, right, that's fine. So he gets a few spiders instead. And then Seward starts to notice that he is getting rid of the flies, but now there's spiders.
So now we got to get the snakes. And then after the snakes, we got to get in the mongooses. And then after the mongooses, we got, what kills mongoose?
Mongooses. We always have this.
Mongai. Mongai. What kills the mongai?
I don't know. Crocodiles.
Tigers. Oh, crocodiles.
Crocodiles.
Problem solved. They'll have to go to the toilet when they're finished, so all good.
So then Seward tells him, you can't have the spiders either.
You won't let me have anything in this house.
And then he's
this is so unfair.
So the spiders start to go missing. And birds start to appear.
Birds?
And then Seward's like, you can't have the birds either. And then Renfield's like, I'm just going to tear it apart with my teeth. Fuck you.
That's
and he does that.
What Richard Chase would do.
I know, yeah. But he does that. But you know what's creepy? Like, maybe he was somebody with psychological problems, because I know a woman that nursed Myra Hindley. not nursed, where she was incarcerated. And she said she saw that woman with a robin in her bare hands strangled.
Again, Richard Chase was called Dracula. Oh yeah, Richard Chase was called Dracula in but I think that was more off of Vlad the Impaler, from him catching birds and ripping their heads off and sucking out their blood.
Oh yeah.
When he was in a mental health institution.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, for people who don't know who Moira Hindley is, because you might know if you're not from Ireland, UK area.
UK, yeah.
She was one half of the Moors murderers. The Moors murders were a series of child killings committed by Ian Brady and Moira Hindley in and around Manchester, England between July 1963 and October 1965. The victims were 5 children: Pauline Reed, John Kilbridge, Keith Bennett, Leslie Ann Downey, and Edward Evans, aged between 10 and 17, and at least 4 of whom were sexually assaulted. I remember when I was a kid, and I said, do you remember I said that the first time coming across true crime was a bunch of these true crime magazines that I don't know if my dad buy it, my mom or dad buy them, or they get them out of fucking some newspaper or whatever. But the Moors murders was one of them.
It was the news of the world.
I remember reading
they came,
and it was thinking of the children being taken. It was just fucking. I remember as a teenager reading it and just being kind of fucking completely creeped out by this story.
I think one of the bodies was only found in our lifetime.
That made it even worse, was knowing that they were alone out there somewhere in the moors. Anyway, the bodies of 2 of the victims were discovered in 1965 in graves dug on Saddleworth Moor. The third grave was discovered there in 1987. That was the year I was born. More than 20 years after Brady and Hindley's trial. Bennett's body is also thought to be buried there, but despite repeated searches, it remains undiscovered. The pair were charged only for the murders of Kilbridge, Downey, and Evans and received life sentences under a whole life tariff. For the Americans who don't know what that is you are not getting out ever.
With no
there's no parole, there's no fucking parole hearings, there's no discussion of parole. You are once you get this, you are in jail until you are dead.
Yeah.
The investigation was reopened in 1985 after Brady was reported as having confessed to the murders of Reed and Bennett. Hindley stopped claiming her innocence in 1987 and confessed to all of the murders. After confessing to these additional murders, Brady and Hindley were taken separately to Saddleworth Moor to assist in the search for the graves. Characterised by the press as the most evil woman in Britain, Hindley made several appeals against her life sentence, claiming she was a reformed woman and no longer a danger to society, but was never released. She died in 2002 in West Suffolk Hospital, aged 60, after serving 36 years in prison. But we talked about this on, I think, the weekend up, on Real Monsters, when we were talking about all these paedophiles and stuff like that. Child killers, paedophiles.
There is no reform.
There's no coming back from that. You know, I mean, maybe if you killed one by accident or something like that, you could see how a bad situation happened, and you know, shit happens sometimes. It's terrible. Accidents happen and all that kind of stuff. Manslaughter, or someone, you know, like Richard Chase comes along and fucking is an absolute lunatic, but if they were medicated properly, would have been fined, you know, stuff like that. Exactly. But if you killed multiple children, you know, and they used to like trick them into the house and fucking, you know, like, oh, we'll play music, we'll smoke dope, you know, I'll show you pornography and all this stuff, and then, you know, kids never came back fucking out. Brady was diagnosed as a psychopath in 1985, no shit, and confined to a high-security Ashford hospital. He made it clear that he wished to never be released and repeatedly asked to be allowed to die. Now, see, there is something I did say. I said someone who was truly sorry for what they did or truly remorseful for what they did would not want to be released from prison. No. So maybe later on in life it caught up with him. He died in 2017 at Ashford, age 79, after serving 51 years.
I think maybe he was just a fucking coward and was being terrified of being released from prison because he knew what would fucking happen.
There's that too. I didn't know the man personally, so I don't know. Served a solid 51 years. That's a long fucking sentence. Long stretch, but... The trial judge, Justice Fenton Atkinson, described Brady and Hindley in his closing remarks as 2 sadistic killers of the utmost depravity. Their crimes were the subject of extensive worldwide media coverage. So you can get documentaries about these people, books about these people, and it's a big one from England.
There's a 2 or 3 part ITV series, I think, as well.
Oh, a TV show?
TV show,
yeah. I gotta watch that. But it's a big one.
It's a hard watch, I found.
I think a lot of these ones are big ones when they can't find by when they're still trying to get the body information out of these people, you know. But if they bought them out to fucking look from and they were assisting, maybe it's a case that they just forgot where they buried one of them.
They could have forgotten. Again, if you're doing it in the moors, I presume it's quite like
What are
our
the moors
bogs.
like? Or like bogs?
I would assume they're like our bogs. So, I mean, do you know you have bog holes and stuff like
So,
that? Can
yeah.
that be like covered over? Maybe
So
like
that body could be
slippage
fucking
underneath, like.
found, preserved a little bit, maybe fucking later on at some point. But you'd have to imagine they'd search the shit out of the place.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's
We will
sad.
see.
Anyway, back to Harker, who is progressively getting a bit worse because on the 12th of May, he is convinced he is terrified of Dracula. Terrified of him. He said that at one stage, now this is a bit batshit, but he said at one stage he looked out his window at night and he saw him like lizard crawl down the wall
Yeah.
to get out. And
How long was he here for?
But that's it. He said that Dracula insisted that he was to stay for a month, but yeah, he wasn't to try. Like it was kind of like, oh, I insist, or I'm gonna fucking kill you, according to Harker.
Why would you want to stay anywhere for a month?
I know.
Someone else's house for a month? What,
Like,
to read some
fuck
fucking
that.
court documents?
Again, maybe the Count was lonely. I don't know. He was also not allowed to sleep outside his room. There were certain locked rooms in the house that he was not allowed to go into.
That's okay, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
If someone was saying over here there'd be certain rooms, I'd be like, don't go into
Yeah.
I prefer if you can go into my bedroom. You know?
Exactly. There are certain people that are allowed in the bedroom, like, do you know that kind of way? Like, but like, yeah, it's not a nationwide invitation.
Yeah.
Or is it? So on the 15th of May, then he saw Dracula leaving the castle again, but he doesn't say that time how he actually left the castle.
Okay.
But he decided to go for a wander and he came across this room. And he said that from the look of the room, it was obviously at some stage like a ladies' room. Do you know, like it was a room for women way back, like a couple of hundred years ago.
So it was a retro room.
Yeah, kind of. But he said that the instant that he walked through the door, he felt like, you know, like this calmness, like, fell over him. And this is where things start to get, like, fucked up. Because in the early hours the next morning, three women come into this room. And according to Harker, they have, like, big red lips and pointy teeth. And he's scared of him. But he said that he felt an extreme longing for them while being terrified of them. So obviously
He's terrified,
he was horny
but he's still a man. I'll take all of you. Jump on in.
And this is where it gets, yeah. So one of the women apparently approached his neck, which to me isn't that strange because if somebody's trying to seduce you, obviously, like your neck is one of the
Kissing on the
main.
neck
Yeah, exactly. But Dracula came home. Count came home and he came in and he got really, really fucking shitty when he came in and he found
slept with my daughters?
his wife's apparently, according to Harker. Yeah. So
3 wives.
And he catches the wife and
he
he
cheated
like
with all 3 of them.
no. Apparently he nearly cheated with one of them until the Count came back. And he like fucked her across the room and then threw a baby at the 3 wives.
What? Yeah. Where did the baby come from?
Exactly. He returned home with a baby in a bag, according to Harker.
No, see, the
Now
thing
this
about
is all in journal, like as I'm saying now, it is in journals, but he could be brewing that brain fever that he got.
I was just about to say, kind of back you up here a little bit. Back hundreds of years ago and stuff like that, these kind of eccentric, crazy, kind of sadistic people kind of existed. You had Gilles de Rais, like, and he was fucked up.
Allegedly, Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
We talked about that. That's the New Orleans one, is it?
No,
What's
Elizabeth
New Orleans
Bathory is
again?
the other Romanian
what was the New Orleans again? Was
Madame
that?
Lalaurie.
Yeah, I mean, you had these kind of high society, big money people who, you know, had this weird, sick fucking side to them that they kept in a locked room in their big castles.
Exactly.
And when you unlocked it, you found people sewn together or ripped apart or
limbs set in the wrong position.
Or being drained for their blood or dissected. Or,
I think Gilles de Rais has... Okay.
It's like, so it's not uncommon for these kind of strange people is what I'm saying.
No, I think...
You know,
yeah.
whereas this Dracula guy sounds a bit funny. He's still in the realm of possibility at that time that he's just this weird fucked up guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got this guy who's brewing a fucking serious fever, so he could just be tripping out as well. And
Exactly.
Well, you're not going to have a fever for a month.
But why would everything be glossed over then the next day like it didn't happen? Is that the Count playing into him, kind of like gaslighting him, or is it...
Maybe.
Do you know? So then 2 nights afterwards, Dracula, the Count goes out again, and Harker's like, and go back to that room. Don't know if it's going back to the room for the lady or for the ladies or like for clues or whatever. But the room is now in the category of one of those locked rooms.
Okay.
And he's not allowed in there anymore. The Count also got weird by asking him to write.
Did he ask anything about the baby, no? Do you not think to say, where's the baby? Where did you get the baby from? What was the baby? What happened to the baby? Is the baby okay after you threw it through the air at your wife?
I think he was just frozen solid, to be honest. I think it was just pure fear, because the Count also asked him to write 3 letters.
Okay.
One saying that his work was done.
Mm-hmm.
One saying that he's returned home soon. And the other to say that he's arrived at basically, it was Bistritz. I think that's how you say it. It was one of the towns that you had to go through, like ports or whatever. And the letters were to be dated the 12th to 19th and the 29th of June. And he fucking goes along with it. That to me is instant red flag.
Oh, yeah. That's
like, you're not getting me tried anything.
He's going to kill me.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I think he did see that, because in his journal, when he mentioned that he had to write the new letters, he is quoted as saying, I know the span of my life, God help me. So he is like, oh shit, this is it.
I mean, obviously, to back up his earlier claims that that the Count was kind of making this guy crazy, and it wasn't a fever, outside the fact that it was a month and all this kind of shit, is this Renfield guy. And was there any more? Are we going to get to him later?
Oh, we'll get to him later, because all this is like happening.
Know what he had
we'll go into Renfield
even
later.
If it's crazy ramblings, you have to assume
he does have a huge role in it.
Okay.
But as in, all that with Renfield is happening while Jonathan is over here. While Harker is over here. All that with Renfield in the asylum is happening while Harker is over here in Romania. So then on the 28th of May, there is another entry in Harker's journal, and he said that on that day there was a group of gypsies arrived into the courtyard of the castle, and he wrote out 2 letters in shorthand, one for Mina, the fiance, and one for his boss back in England, Hawkins, man by the name of Hawkins. But he was caught by Dracula, and Dracula was like, oh, I'll do it for you, but only for Hawkins to go to burn Mina's letter.
Huh?
She's like,
okay.
Yeah.
And why was that?
I don't think that he wanted a loved one that could look into it, like that would know by his tone of the letter. Do you know that kind of way? Yeah. Keeping it business, back to his associate. And then on the 31st, there's another entry that said that his room was completely rifled through. Every scrap of paper was gone out of his room, including his good suit.
So why the fuck would you just leave at this point?
Because I think he's just fucking terrified. But if you're not seeing Dracula during the day, why aren't you leaving the castle during the day?
Yeah.
Do you know? I mean, that's better than having to leave under the cover of night.
Yep, I'll be gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I've been to Romania though, lovely country. No vampires attacked me. It was good.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah,
nice. There's certain castles in Romania that look absolutely fucking fantastic.
Oh, I was just in the city, and it was just half it's really rich, half it's really poor kind of looking. You know, but it was the traffic there was crazy.
Was it worse than Amsterdam?
No, not as in the traffic is bad. As in the drivers are absolute lunatics. It was the scariest taxi ride of my life.
Seriously, do they have like trams and all that, tram lines? And
I can't remember. It was so fucking crazy. I can't. It's all a blur to me. Of horns honking, the driver screaming out the window at people, and just stuff coming left, right, and centre at you. I remember at one point, the truck nearly came into the side of us. Fucking, we went right past. I remember seeing the front grill of the truck right in my face as we were passing. I was like, "Holy shit!"
Is it like what you see on like Indian documentaries or India on TV?
Yeah, that's
like
mental. Like,
holy God,
no law there at all when it comes to the road. Like,
and is that just in the city?
Seems I was only in the city, so I couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay. So yeah, and then on the 17th of June, then obviously a while after that, good while after that. On the 17th of June, Harker said that he sees 2 horses arrive in the courtyard with a lot of men carrying like big square boxes.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're just like big long boxes. He doesn't know what's in them, but it's just kind of like a remark in the journal.
Okay.
That there was like these big long boxes being taken out of the courtyard. And then on the 24th, he saw Dracula leave the castle in his suit, in his good suit that had gone missing. And he was like, right, well, he's up to his own plotting again. At that stage, I would wonder why I hadn't been killed yet.
Yeah, I wonder why I was still there.
Yeah, exactly. That night, though, he also hears a wail outside of Dracula's room and a woman begging for her child back. outside the castle.
Good, yeah, he's got a tendency to throw him around the place, so I wouldn't want him to have my baby either.
But while the woman is wailing, a group of wolves come along and tear her apart.
Leave. No, you idiot.
So on the 25th of June, one of Harker's letters, it was actually sent out in the post, the first of his letters. And that's when he starts to click with him. That's when he starts to take note in his journal of, how come I haven't seen Dracula during the daytime?
Okay.
It's like, wow, what is really going on here? Like,
God, and people back in this generation would have fucking jumped to the illogical first.
Yeah.
The paranormal, the...
Exactly. Well, maybe that might have been a good...
mythological kind of ideas.
But might be, yeah. But he goes to explore Dracula's room and he sees like he's got like a shitload of money from every fucking time period in every fucking country. Maybe he's just a collector that way. That way, yeah. But then he starts to smell like, you know, like turned earth, like fucking decay and like earth, yeah. And he goes over and he discovers that there is a coffin for all intents and purposes in the room. And Dracula is laying in that coffin, looking kind of younger, but there's like blood all over his mouth.
Creepy.
It is creepy. Again, I'm just so fucking torn. Was he suffering the brain fever?
But again, I could just be this Count Dracula guy was a quirky fucking weirdo.
And maybe he was pale because he slept during the day. He was only out at night. That's why he was so pale.
He had read fucking stories of vampires and decided this way. I mean, that's not unheard of. We got kids today and fucking from other generations who pretend to be vampires. Do you know, who really lay into it? Like, they'll kayfabe the shit out of it and say they're real vampires all to the bitter end. Bruce Pritchard on his podcast, Something to Wrestle With, talked about Gangrel, who's a wrestler who has a vampire gimmick. He bought Legend Christian. He was in a group of Legend Christian to start that with. And he said that like Gangrel bought him to a fucking nightclub that was a vampire nightclub with people who genuinely acted like they were vampires. So I mean, is it crazy to think that this rich old fucking weird man who's living alone, a bit of a hermit, but living alone, you know, and he's massive castle with no fucking servants or anything like that, that maybe he's got this weird fucking thing of he's a vampire and he's playing into it.
Maybe. But then what about the de-aging that Harker reported? Do you think that maybe it's just bad lighting at night makes him look and he's only ever seen him at night, so you're just seeing him by candlelight?
I'm saying the story's over 100 years old and...
It's over 100 years old, but this is drawing from diaries, from contemporary sources.
Like. But what I'm saying is, look at the development of... We talk about horror movies here for a minute.
Okay.
Look at the development of horror movies and what scared people in the 1930s as opposed to what scares people today. Back in that time period, if you believe something hard enough, you could trick your eyes into believing something hard enough. Do you know what I mean? If you've already got the preconceived notion that this man might be a vampire, then you're going to start looking for stuff that will make him that vampire. Like, so... Oh, does he look a little younger? Is his hair a little less grey? You know, does that then get inflated in your head later when you're writing in your journal of, oh, he looked 10 years younger, and there was blood, and there was this, and there was that. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you are in a panic state and you believe you're... I mean, if you're still there after everything you've seen, you're traumatized as it is.
There's something not fucking right, yeah.
You're traumatized as it is. You're with this fucking quite possible serial killer old fucking man. You know?
Yeah.
And he's playing some sort of game with you. The likelihood is that you'd, in a panic, in a stressed out situation, might start seeing stuff you think you're fucking, that you want to see, to explain away what's actually happening to you. Do you know?
No, that's true. That's true. On the 29th of June, so that's 4 days after he saw Dracula in the coffin, he's getting really shitty and he's saying in his journal that he wished he had some sort of lethal weapon for all intents to kill Dracula.
Am I the only person that would meet a vampire and be like, yup, change me, I'll go to your side, no problemo, let's do this.
But then they go all emo and they'd be like, do you know what you're asking? I'd be like, yeah, read all about it.
I've read Preacher, I know exactly the type of vampire plan.
As long as the two of us return together, if they're not turning you, I'm not turning. I can't.
Fucking Laszlo and what's what we do in the shadows.
I think we'd be more loving towards each other. I don't think you'd lock me into a coffin and send me off somewhere.
No.
Okay, cool.
Where the fuck could I send you? Tipperary? You'll be back within a couple of hours.
So, yeah, on the 29th of June, that was the day of Harker's last letter. So that was the one that he was supposed to arrive at Bistro, the kind of port town.
So these are the hostage letters he was forced to write.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So that's the same day that he was like, shit, I wish I had, a weapon to kill him with.
There was a serial killer group in Australia that used to do the exact same thing.
I was thinking it sounded familiar.
Tape recorder. So they'd last podcast covered them lately. I was listening to it. And it was, I can't remember their names, but it was this group in Australia, and they basically played up that they were paedophile hunters, but basically anyone that they didn't like were labeled paedophiles and then killed. Gay guys got it a lot because they assumed, I think this is around the 80s or something like that, but they assumed if you're gay, you're a paedophile at that stage in time. Because all paedophiles are gay, so all gays are paedophiles. That's the way they looked at it. Whereas I think statistics show that most paedophiles are straight men.
I think so.
And they're not gay at all. It's just they're attracted to children, and the sex doesn't really matter to them, But yeah, they used to do the same thing. They used to torture the person to say one line at a time. So they torture you to get you to say a line into the tape recorder, and then they torture you some more to get you to say the next line. It was basically you sending a message to your loved ones telling them that you were sick of them and you were fucking leaving the country or you're leaving the area and they weren't to come looking for you and you never wanted to talk to them again, and that was it.
What if you agreed to say 2 lines? Would they still torture you in between?
Well, yeah, probably, because they were kind of sick, fucked up. Some motherfuckers
Christ.
who did very nasty. The Snowtown murders, that was it.
Oh, we might look at it for...
And the body in the barrel murders, they're known as well.
Yuck.
Because they started storing the bodies in barrels and getting rid of them. And that's when they were found.
Okay. So, Harker, he was getting impatient, and he was the agreed date for him to leave was supposed to be like 30th of June. So he's like, can I leave tonight and not tomorrow? And Dracula is thinking about it, and he was like, well, the coachmen are away, so you're going to have to go on your merry way if you want to leave now.
Nah.
But suddenly, a pack of ravenous wolves, the same pack that tore apart the woman looking for her child, appeared in the courtyard. And Harker's like, oh, fuck this. Yeah.
One more night won't kill me.
Frying pan to the fire. Yeah, exactly. And then that night, Harker gets all emotional and he says, these are the last words I'm ever going to write in my diary. He says, goodbye all and goodbye Mina. And he went back down to Dracula's coffin and hit him on the head with a shovel. And nothing fucking happened.
Well, that's not how you kill a vampire to start with.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But imagine the confusion. Whacking somebody over the head with a shovel and there's just like not even a fucking flinch. According to him. I don't know how true that is. Maybe he killed this person really.
Maybe.
Although.
Is there any stories of Count Dracula after this?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are going to go in now to the log of the Demeter. So the Demeter, it was a kind of an odd ship that came back to land with all the crew dead. Well, all the crew gone except for 1.5 person.
1.5
1.5 people. Peoples. Okay. So on July the 6th, the log of the Demeter, it's so you know what the log is, it's the captain's log, like.
Yeah.
And so they're in Russia and they're on their way to Whitby Abbey. And according to him, they've finished loading cargo of a few long wooden boxes filled with silver sands and earth. So these are the ones that Harker had seen.
Taken out.
Exactly. And so they left at noon, and then on the 11th, they were boarded by Turkish custom officers, and then on the 12th, they had more custom officers, so things aren't really smooth from the start for them. There was something odd on the ship, according to the captain on the 13th. He was like, there's something weird about the crew.
They were calling it sand, but really it was high quality cocaine.
They're like, shit, man.
I swear it's sand, officer.
Maybe that's why the crewmen were shifty. Because the captain did note that,
Count made his money smuggling fucking cocaine. He was the original Pablo Escobar.
Yeah. Count Escobar.
Even the Count even sounds like a fucking intro.
Yeah, it does.
I am Count Dracula. Cocaine king.
We need to do that as a movie. But where was I? Oh yeah, on the 13th, the crew seemed anxious, but nobody was speaking up. Nobody was like, right, well, this is what's wrong with all the men, and this is what. Then he starts getting anxious about the crew. they're becoming extremely restless. And then one of them go missing on the 16th. Can't be found. But like the rest of the crew is like, we're not exactly surprised. We were expecting something to go wrong. On the 17th, according to captain's log, the members were saying that there was a strange, tall, like thin man aboard the ship. And that, like, you know, a few of them were seeing them. And then the person that was saying that he saw him disappeared. And then there was absolute fucking panic aboard the ship, obviously, because it's like space. Where the fuck do you run to?
Yep, you're pretty much stuck. You can get in the lifeboat, but
yeah,
you know,
exactly. So they searched the entire ship, according to the captain, the whole ship. They left nowhere unsearched. But he never mentioned the big boxes. I mean, like, you're not going to search through, you know, like big boxes of Earth, because it's just Earth.
You don't want to start poking around at the Count's drugs
because he gets shitty about that. Absolutely.
Okay, it's honesty time. We have a confession to make. We suck at socials, no good at Insta, can't send a tweet or an X or whatever that super villain looking motherfucker is calling it now. Stick to your space cars, Elon. But we know you want to chat. You want to be kept updated. You want to be alive all the goddamn time. So we're getting down from the antisocial soapbox and giving this a try. So come chat to us on Insta and Twitter at AliveAlivePod, or hit us up by email at itsalivealivepod@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. This is a project. It's still a work in progress, and we just want to give you more what you like and less of what you can't stand. So give us a like, give us a follow. We'll always hit you back, and we'll always try to reply to everyone. So come say hi. We don't bite. Well, at least Amy doesn't. And she keeps me well fed, so you got nothing to worry about. Now, back to the show.
On the 22nd of July, then, they came into rough weather. So there was all hands on deck, and apparently everybody forgot to be scared for a while because it was really shitty weather. But the shitty weather stayed with them. On the 24th, there's another man lost.
Forget to be scared. They just had something else to be scared about.
Yeah, I forgot to be
the
scared.
guy that's hiding around here. Now the waves are trying to kill us, so let's just panic about this for a while.
On the 24th, another man is lost, and there's like pretty like much like doom, as in like the whole ship is like, well, that's it. We keep just being picked off one by one, and the weather's still shit. So now they're scared over two things again.
It's like being in a slasher movie and the Perfect Storm movie at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So, meanwhile, while all this is going on the ship, Harker's fiancée, Mina, is back home in England. And in her journal, she's like, you know, still no news from Harker. Like, what the fuck's going on? I still haven't heard from him. Hawkins hasn't told me anything. And then she gets the letter from Hawkins. Do you know the one that Count Dracula didn't burn?
Yeah.
And Hawkins kind of relays to Mina that Harker's fine, and this is what he said in the letter, and kind of gives a copy of it. But she's like, that doesn't sound like him. Yeah. So she's getting worried. So it's past the time she kind of spends her days hanging out with Lucy and an older friend of theirs who was an old sea captain, an extremely superstitious sea captain called Mr. Swale. Okay. And like he has a really awful feeling about the storm that's approaching with this boat, with the Demeter.
Okay.
There's something not right, and he has the two girls scared shitless over it. Like, while this boat is approaching, while the storm is brewing, the girls aren't sleeping at night. Like, to the extent, but like...
How did he know that, or did he know they were coming, so did he think they were supposed to be coming home on that boat?
They didn't know he didn't know the boat was coming. It was the storm. He knew the storm was bringing something bad. Sorry, maybe I worded that wrong.
Okay, sorry. I thought you meant that he knew the boat was coming as well.
No, I think I might have said that, yeah.
He knew the stormy waters meant no good for...
Yeah, basically the type of storm he was coming. You know the way they'd be like, oh, Davy Jones, and don't kill a seagull, and all that jazz. Yeah. There's probably like ghosties in the storm somewhere. Lucy's actually so scared of this impending storm that she's sleepwalking on more than one night, and she's
do they live by the sea or something?
Yeah. No, they live by the sea.
Storm?
Mina walks the cliffs with her old sailor friends to pass the time. Like, you know, like they're right on the sea.
Okay.
So that's why.
So it'd be a big fucking sailing town, big boating town, big fishing town. So they have all this kind of fucking stupid superstition that comes with all this kind of
exactly.
shit. Yeah.
Exactly. So while this storm is coming in, there is more from the captain's log. So on the 28th of July, he said that they're basically spending their days in hell. They're not sleeping at all. All the men are too anxious, too scared to sleep. But the weather has kind of gotten good at the moment.
What I
it's like the eye of the hurricane.
I say this at every slasher movie we see. Stick together and sleep in shifts.
But you see, that was fine. That'd be fine. But on the 29th of July, the captain's like, everybody's too tired. We can only do single shifts. So they had to stop doing double shifts because nobody is sleeping at all. So they need to get some sleep. So it's like one at a time now, lads.
Okay.
Yeah. And then obviously, of course, when they change to single shift man goes missing.
Yep.
Yeah. On the 30th then, there's only the captain, one of the mates and 2 hands left. But they're like, oh shit, yeah, we're getting close to England. We just have to stick it out like for a few more days. But then on the 1st of August, they find that it's extremely foggy. All of a sudden, for no reason, it's extremely foggy for them. They're drifting. Every time they think that they're going one course because of the fog, like they're drifting like another way. Yeah, exactly.
You really would be relying on your compass in that situation to get you through it.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
Because, I mean, fuck me. You've seen me trying to drive through fog. Like, it's
hard. I've driven through thick fog. I don't like it.
All you can do is look at what's directly in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Stay staring and watch the lines as they come at you. You know, and it's like split second kind of thing. Like
exactly. I remember being caught off guard with a turn in the fog. Like, and I don't mean a turn, like a fucking bend. Do you know?
It's scary shit. All right.
And then on the 2nd of August at midnight, he said that he heard a cry on deck, but then when he went up, that there was nobody on deck at all. Nobody.
I wouldn't mind. That would be a claustrophobic feeling, all right. Yeah, like being out in the open sea might be a fucking because you can't see anything, but you know you're on the course towards something is one thing. But like I'll tell you, in the car, like driving in thick fog where you can't see anything, it's a scary claustrophobic feeling. So I imagine it's the same at sea, especially the silence. If it's calmer, the silence, because generally fog is calmer weather. Yeah. So it'll be eerie, like, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And now you're saying they're hearing things scream, so I mean...
It's fucked up. And, like, literally, you've gone from a crew full of people to, like, 3, 4, maybe. Maybe he's... Like, he went to relieve the man at the wheel on the 3rd of August, and he was like, oh, shit, the man at the wheel is gone now as well.
That might be why they were going off course.
Yeah, exactly. So then the captain himself sees the tall, thin, ghostly pale man. He tried to stab him, but it just went right through him. So he got away from him. But later that night, one of his mates came across the tall, thin, pale man, and he was like, fuck this. And he just jumped overboard. He just came running, screaming towards the captain and jumped overboard.
Not to cause any spoilers here, but are we to believe that the tall, white man, grey man kind of way, are we to believe this was the Count himself or one of his minions?
But you see, that's the thing. The captain points back to he's like, the only place that this band can be coming from is these boxes of earth, like, and he's pointing them out the same way that... Because
they've searched everywhere else.
They've searched everywhere else, exactly. So he's like, there's nothing else he can do, and a captain always goes down with his ship, and he wants to keep his honour as a captain. So he ties himself to the wheel, but he also takes the captain's log, and he ties the captain's log to himself also, and he ties himself to the wheel. So that's the end of the captain's log, okay? And then on the August the 8th, 1893, same year obviously, there's a report in the Daily Telegraph from Whitby that during the great storm that hit, the one that everybody was scared over, they reported that a strange ship which ran ashore, a corpse head was swaying in the wind, and a big dog shot up and ran away out of the boat. So like a wolf kind of type dog. And the captain was found holding the log with both hands tied to the wheel, and a crucifix, was holding a crucifix, and he had been dead for at least 2 days.
There's no way it was just the big mean dog that ripped everyone apart.
The way it was described as the head hanging made me think of was it like the Vikings kind of thing, like?
And did they find the other bodies, or were they just missing?
No, the bodies were gone.
So the only body they found, they're only really found 1.5 murders. The rest of it, well, obviously we have a log, but that's interesting. I mean,
there's been ships before that have been found floating, with just, I mean, like, they're not even just like in recent times, like it has been happening every so often.
Creepy.
Be fucking creepy. Yeah.
What do you do out in the middle of the sea when something goes wrong like that? You're fucked. Can't call the police. Can't fucking do anything. You're bollocks. Like.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey.
On the 9th of August in 1893, the Whitby Correspondent newspaper wrote a sequel to the Strange Ship article. And just letting people know that the ship was from Russia. It had many boxes of earth and was released to solicitors Billington. The dog from the ship could not be found, but that this morning a mastiff was found dead with its body slit open.
Ooh.
And it also published the log of the Demeter, which is why it was so readily available.
Okay.
Thank you, with the correspondent. And they obviously, when it was announced that because of the captain's actions, he got a public hero's funeral.
It's funny that they'd released that info. Well, I suppose they were a bit more open with it back then, weren't they? They liked this kind of mental kind of shit back then. I mean, they were still going to public hangings and stuff. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, death was a big kind of...
Well, maybe after this, they just started covering stuff like this up.
Yeah, exactly. So the day after the storm and the boat came in, Mr. Swales that I was talking about, that Lucy and Mina hung out with, the old guy, he was found dead near a graveyard near Whitby Abbey. And so the doctor that did the post-mortem said that the elderly man must have gotten a bit of a fright as his neck was broken. Could have gotten a fright and fell.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I should have said that and fell. Got a fright and broken neck. No, got a fright and fell. But
Really said right round.
Exactly. Broken neck always just seems to me like, in stories like this, it just feels like somebody did it.
Yeah.
Do you know, like.
Well, it is possible, like, I mean, to fall over and break it. I mean, it's more probable that somebody else did it to you.
If it was in a graveyard or a churchyard or whatever, would it be a pretty uneven, knobbly, rocky?
Well, you would know if you fell over by a grave. They usually have like a concrete kind of thing around them.
Yeah.
They might have a concrete frame around them and stuff, you know.
They're fucking slippy. They're fucking ankle hazard.
Yes.
So...
And did they ever have any suspects for this, or did they just label it an accident or
The guy was in a graveyard at night. He got a fright. Something frightened him. As you know yourself, it could be
so
an
in case
owl or...
Move on.
Yeah, exactly. So the next day, Mina finds Lucy wandering around the garden at about 1 a.m, kind of sleepwalking again, and she goes out and she's like, get the fuck back in, and she gives her a shawl. But she notices that Lucy's getting a bit of a rash on her neck. Okay. And there's like two kind of like, she's called them pinpricks, but I think we call them puncture marks.
Okay.
Now.
It's him getting his new drugs out there.
Yeah.
The powder that was in the boxes.
Exactly. In the meantime, Mina gets a letter from St. Agatha from the Hospital of St. Joseph in Budapest. And she's like...
It was.
Budapest. And she's like, we have your fiancé. He's fine. He's been with us for 6 weeks.
No, Budapest is Hungary. Bucharest is where I was in Romania.
Oh, okay. Cool. Your dad works,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bucharest.
Okay. And yeah, so he's been suffering from brain fever and they've been nursing him back to health. And he said that he was raving, you know,
so Dracula didn't kill him?
No, he managed to escape the castle.
Okay.
He manages to escape the castle. But when he meets up with Mina later, he actually says to her that I'll go. Well, obviously there's more to happen, but just to let you know, he goes into. He says, I can't really remember what happened to me. He's like, I don't want to remember what happened to me. I know it was fucked up. Yeah. He's like, I can't revisit it. Yeah, basically, in more fiery language than that, but that is the general sentiment of it.
Okay.
So Sister Agatha's all like, you know, like he's raving about wolves and blood and ghosts and demons, and apparently some kind stranger gave him a ticket, from what she could make out, a ticket at the train station in the village that he got to, but he was extremely aggressive and violent from reports. That when he got to that train station.
Just so people know that we were mentioning it's not uncommon for people with PTSD to have memory loss or changes in memories. Mm-hmm. So like I said about what he might have thought he saw, and memory loss, especially short term and stuff like that.
Yeah.
From PTSD. So this could be just a case of the man couldn't remember shit because he was so fucking scared or whatever. He thought he saw.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. The next day, then Mina sees Lucy hanging out the window, and she's like pointing or talking. She couldn't really make it out to a bat.
To a bat?
A bat.
Okay.
Late at night. People start to think now that Lucy might be getting a bit sick.
Okay.
Lucy reckons that the next day, then, like when they're on the same cliff that they used to walk with Mr. Swales, she's like, I just saw a dark figure.
Do they not start worrying when one of their husbands has a brain fucking fever? This woman is starting to get sick. Another man is found with his neck broken.
Oh, it's worse. Her father-in-law, her prospective father-in-law, is sick as well. But he's only a small character. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's also the 1890s. Everybody gets sick.
True. I suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have the wonders of modern medicine, yes.
So Lucy's getting bad. She's getting bad. On the 17th of August, Mina actually says that Lucy's fading away and that the pinpricks on her neck haven't healed.
They bring in the leeches.
Yeah. Well, you see, the thing is, when Dr. Seward comes, he owns a sanitarium, but he's like a medical doctor as well, so he's called to come and have a look at her, and he's all like, well, it's like she doesn't have a whole load of blood, but she's not anemic. And everybody's like, okay, well, what the fuck is going on? And then there's like these changes of her in her. So like, you know, like then on the 18th of August, Mina's like, Lucy seems fine again. But like this is going like back and forth and back and forth. For you.
This is some sort of early version of trioxin. And they appear to have fading symptoms, but really they're still talking to your movements. Remember I said that about trioxin, that the zombie-like effect they put on people where they almost seemed to be dead, but not really dead, rabid, but nearly, you know, that their heart rate was slowed down and the way they moved was awkward. So
yeah,
could this be the same thing?
Could be. Yeah.
Who was it that influenced Herbert West in his quest? Go on. So she appears to be... She
appears to be bloodless but not anemic. So Seward, he writes to his friend Dr. Abraham Van Helsing, and he's a specialist in like abnormal diseases. That was the word I was looking for earlier. Okay. Abnormal. And so Van Helsing's like, oh, this is a disease I haven't heard of. I will leave at once and make my career. So he visited Lucy on the 3rd of September, who seemed a bit better today, but he came up with the same conclusion as Seward, that she was clearly lacking blood, but that she wasn't anemic. So he was like, I'm going to go back to Amsterdam for a while, and I'm going to think about this some more.
What do you mean lacking blood? Like she was just like low on blood? Like?
Yeah, low on blood.
Making her weak and pale and the like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Exactly. And then on the 5th of September, Lucy was on the mend apparently, and on the 5th of September there was a telegram sent from Dr. Seward to Van Helsing, and he's like, Lucy's fine. And then on the September the 6th, he's like, oh shit, come on once.
Okay.
Yeah, things aren't looking good. So while he's on his way, Van Helsing's like, you need to write down every tiny little detail about what's going on here. Like, I need to know everything. So he gets there and he sees that Lucy's bad, and he sees that she still has the puncture wounds. And he's like, I'm going to have to go back home again and read my books because there's no internet. I'll return later.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But in the meantime...
You wouldn't want to be in a fucking panic, would you? You wouldn't want to be on death's door with these guys.
But while
One second, I'm just going to fly back. Or no, sorry, I'm going to take a boat back to Holland, a very slow boat, and then I will be back again after I've just gotten here. I mean, when did you bring your books with you, for fuck's sake?
Exactly. And while he's off consulting his books, Lucy's been given blood transfusions. Now, I don't know when they came up with how to tell what type of blood you have, but I wonder, did they make her condition worse? Because a blood transfusion of the wrong type of blood from, like she was getting from Arthur, could have caused Lucy's condition to worsen. Like blood types that are not even partially compatible cause a reaction. No, it's you get a reaction from the blood. It's kind of the same thing as the baby thing, like, so it kills all your antibodies and you go into shock really, really fucking quickly and die in some cases.
Yeah. It didn't work out well for Richard Chase either when he did it with rabbit's blood. But in his defence, the Italians were trying to steal his blood at the time.
Yeah, because they were turning it to powder, weren't they?
They were in league with the UFO Nazis, though. So I mean, you know, was it really the Italians' fault, or were they, you know, probed and or taken over. Were they just the pawns in the UFO Nazis' plans to take over the world? And was this poor woman one of the first people they attacked? With their blood powdering.
He's really applicable to a lot of this story. In fairness, though.
Well, yeah, that's why they call him the Vampire of Sacramento. Except he didn't throw babies around. He more ripped them apart and fucking ate them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Fucking disgusting. Anyway, when all this is going on with Lucy, I have an update for Renfield for you. So he tried to escape in August and tried to do what he said was his master's bidding. But nobody at this stage is like, who the fuck is
What's
his master?
his background? Who is this Renfield?
But you see, that's what there's conflicting stories about him. That's what I was saying. Some stories are that he was Harker's predecessor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But is there any more about him than that? Like, do they know
not a whole load, which isn't uncommon.
And did he talk much? Did he say much about what happened when he was there?
He does know Dracula. We'll go into it a tiny
These
bit more,
guys, two guys went to Romania. Both had things happen to them in this castle that they choose to forget, and they both come back a little crazy. Except one of them gets better and one of them goes into an asylum.
One of them gets better because he's like, fuck this shit.
Okay.
And also, I think that the power on Renfield might have been a bit stronger with Dracula.
So Renfield was the weaker minded.
Yeah, I think so.
The Jedi mind trick worked on him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all Dracula had to do was like, as in like, here's a few flies to start your fortune.
I suppose if the guy's collecting flies and shit already, you're probably going to be predisposed to
worship me and you can have all the flies and spiders.
All the flies. They're all yours. I won't let anybody else take them.
All for you. But he actually escapes. But he goes to the churchyard where Mr. Swales was found dead. But he's recaptured. And then on the 3rd of August, he manages to escape again. He goes to the same church door and he's violent until he sees like this bat fly across the moon. But what happened was Seward was like, maybe we should kind of let him think he's escaping again to see what he's doing.
Where
for, like,
leads
experimental.
you.
Yeah.
Where just out of curiosity, because it's just a thought that came into my head as to why Renfield might be worse off than the other guy, and that is Renfield. How did he get away from Dracula, or what did he get away from Dracula, or what's the story of his capture and being put into the asylum? Did he come back to England of his own accord? Was he coming back with the Count himself?
But you see, that's it. And it's not uncommon for the 1890s. There's not a whole load of records there.
Is it a case of if the other guy had stayed there a little longer and stayed there the amount of time Dracula wanted him to stay there, would he have came back in the same state as Renfield?
Maybe.
The fact that he escaped, what saved his mental state?
Most likely. And it's not uncommon in the 1890s that until something big happens, the records around like before and after. I mean, like, if you were a girl born then, like, they probably didn't know like your date of birth.
Yeah, but nowhere to store this shit. There's no one writing.
They'd know your brother's date of birth.
Yeah, they have
exactly.
Basic information. But they didn't have fucking memory sticks to stick it on. This should have to be physically stored somewhere, and and even then, if it was fucking physically stored somewhere, chances are it could have gotten damaged or destroyed since then and all that stuff. And if it's a newspaper, maybe the newspaper went out of print, went out of business, and what's going to happen to the records then? They're probably just going to be burnt and fucking thrown away as well, So, I mean,
like, it happened here on a major level.
Yeah, you were saying, and there was a fire that lost a lot of the census records, was it, or the church census records?
The census record. I think there's a gap of, well, there was none done during the Civil War, I don't think. But there is a gap in our records because of that, the fire at the GPO. After Van Helsing consults his book way back in Amsterdam, he writes to Seward and he's like, I think you should put garlic flowers around Lucy. And Seward's like, well, this is a bit strange. And Van Helsing's like, I'll explain it all when I get there. So, yeah.
I knew when you said he was a doctor for abnormal problems, it was going to be one of them.
Diseases. So Lucy's mom thinks like this is smelly and it's weird, and we're just going to remove all the garlic. We're going to try to give her another blood transfusion.
Okay.
So Van Helsing comes back, but when he comes back, he realizes that there's a telegram that hasn't made it to them, and in that telegram, he had warned them not to remove the garlic under any fucking circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah, and this was like 12 hours late, so he had already arrived. So he's like, well, shit, lads, you removed the garlic and she's been left, at night, so she's going to get worse. But his thinking was, and he's trying to explain to these people, the concept of a fucking vampire.
Well, yeah, it's a hard one to explain to anybody because, as far as most people are concerned, it's a...
Yeah, but that's a mythical creature, but it's so present then in every culture. I mean, like there's corpses in Poland that were
what
like...
I would argue again is it's just a time period as well, because if you took Richard Chase and put him in that time period, because of his mental health problems and because of his actions, he would have been labelled a vampire.
Yeah,
he would have went down in history as a fucking vampire.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's not out of joke. That's the thing. Like, that's just the way it was back then. So, I mean, if this guy is a killer and he's doing these kind of things, or even not even a killer, he doesn't sound like he's killed a whole pile of people just yet. I mean, but he's letting his animals kill people, and he's fucking psychologically fucking with people, and obviously keeping 3 women hostage in his house and throwing babies around the place. So he's not a sane man.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
It is more than possible, like, that they could confuse this, especially if you are a doctor of abnormal diseases, that you might jump straight to the mythological or the...
But if there's no other
but that's what I was going to say.
yeah.
Trying to explain the unexplainable in their minds.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd hate to take on that role. Imagine going into somebody's loved ones and being all like, ancient alien guy.
Okay.
Vampires.
1 second. just listen to me. Work with me. I will explain everything. I promise. But just okay. Vampires. All right. No, don't leave. No.
Do I still get paid?
Fucking came all the way from Holland for this shit.
On the 17th of September, then, there's a memo left by Lucy. She said that she feels like death is coming and that she saw a bat outside her window, and then that was followed by a grey wolf who smashed through her window. And at the same time, all the maids in the dining room passed out.
And her window was broken.
Her window was broken, and in fact, this can be backed up by a publication in the Pall Mall Gazette on September the 18th. From an interview with the keeper of Zoological Gardens, he said that a grey wolf had escaped the night previously and that he was from Norway. His name was Berserker.
Well, that explains it, doesn't it? I mean, that's not. That's not.
But there was one man with red eyes. Well, one man with red eyes, pale, tall man that was able to approach this dog and pet it, and this wolf and pet it. He said that nobody else could fucking put a hand in, or else. But that's it, like. But the weird thing was, he said that the wolf came back itself and that it was covered in glass. So it did actually happen. Okay. But, like, why the fuck would it just go to Lucy's room and then toddle off back along? And vampires are known to be able to control rats. There would be humans, dogs,
She led me to believe we were getting into this story and that she was going to admit that this was probably a serial killer. And now I'm starting to believe that... the lovely Aimee Rose really does believe in vampires, and I've been duped here. I've been tricked
I'm just saying.
No, in her defense, I've sat here and tried to make her believe in zombies and a superhuman race of apes. So, I mean...
I'm just saying the publications, right?
Go for it.
It's a bit much of a coincidence. It's like the alien thing. I don't believe in it, but then there's... No, I do believe in aliens. So, but like there's like things that are too much of a coincidence to be coincidences.
Okay.
Do you know? Yeah. So
maybe Richard Chase was a vampire. No, he was seen in the sun.
Oh, maybe. Oh yeah. On September the 19th, apparently Lucy, people said that she was healthy when she. Oh yeah, happy birthday. Lucy was healthy when she was asleep, but that she was like deathly when she was awake. So, like, she was a picture of health when she was asleep.
Yeah, I'm the same. I feel great when I'm asleep. Fucking dying once I open my eyes.
The only thing was, on September the 20th, Lucy, they said that she died.
She said that?
She died.
She died.
But
don't ever be one of those people that go to fucking tell people that their loved one has died. Are you Mr. and Mrs. Robinson? Your husband, yeah, he was in hospital. He did. Sorry for your loss.
I still think of my first funeral. I still think of like the first time I went to a funeral home, and instead of sympathising, I was only now like it was my best friend's grandmother. Like she had died. I was walking around going, "Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you?" Fucking hang my head in shame. I was only like 12, but
Oh, look.
it happens. But yeah, well, you see, this is how I didn't know how to explain it. This is how I
What would you
feel
do
about
if they had turned around and been like, shit, we're at a fucking funeral?
You're like, I'm only 12.
Alright, sorry for interrupting.
But I thought this is the thing. She died, but apparently, according to Sword, her wounds disappeared, the pinpricks disappeared, and her teeth grew a bit sharper. Now, there is a thing that that your teeth can grow longer and that your nails grow longer, but that's not what it is. It's dehydration. So like, it appears that your teeth are growing longer, but it's your gums dehydrating. Like, exactly. So maybe, but you think that a doctor would know that, even in that time period.
But again, I mean,
yeah.
the doctor in question already believes there's fucking vampires running around the place, so.
Yeah, true.
You know, again, seeing what you want to see, especially in a time where you're getting all your information from books, and you know you don't have mass education or media. You know, and this guy already leans into the fact that he looks into stuff that's out of the ordinary. So you have to assume that means he's a bit of a kind of monster hunter himself. Like, you know, he's into that kind of idea thing. So I mean, he was going to go that direction anyway.
Oh,
and like you said, we've already found a few logical explanations for some of this stuff. Like I said, Richard Chase would be very similar to this Dracula guy in the way you're describing, the way he acts and the way he thinks. And Richard Chase had a lot of these kind of mental kind of thoughts as well. You know, like I joked about his Nazi aliens and the Italians are after him and all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
And that his mother and daughter or sister were taking over his mind and all this kind of stuff. And he'd be drinking animals' blood to get their fucking...
See? So, it's not so far out of the realm of possibility.
But that's what I'm saying is it kind of proves that these people are probably, it's a real thing, it could happen, but chances of it being a vampire, like, I mean, you do have guys like Van Helsing even to this day who would scream. We see him constantly on fucking Paranormal Cotton Camera. Everything that comes up there, they say they've seen a fucking one way or another fucking ghost. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. Which is definitely vampires. That. I've seen 6 of them.
I have
leprechaun. My best friend is a leprechaun. You know? So I mean, they all fucking believe in all that stuff. So you have to assume that back then, when there was no mass education, no mass media, that they were going to believe in all these little. So I mean, even when we were younger, there was still these kind of old wives' tales and stuff like that, and myths and urban legends that went across around the place. So I mean. It's definitely at that time period it would have been heavy into that because they would have all been fucking Jesus nuts as well on top of that. Like, so if you're a Jesus nut, you believe in the devil, and if you believe in the devil, you believe in all those things that go with it. And a vampire is right up there as being like the devil's guy on earth, like, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Sure. So it kind of gets a bit shittier for Lucy's relatives where Van Helsing's concerned, because he comes back with, so she's a vampire and she definitely does deserve a proper funeral, but after we give her a proper funeral, we should probably cut her head off. And they're
so bury her, dig her back up and cut her head off.
Yeah, basically. Well, she would have been buried. They were kind of money, like, so she'd have been in a tomb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we cut her head off, basically. And they're like, well, kind of, we need a bit more proof than this, or a bit more convincing, because they're not listening to him. So
I'll sit around the body for a couple of days and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, so, exactly.
What else can you do with that time period?
He meets with Mina to discuss kind of Lucy's symptoms and how she was feeling.
Or just get a fucking mirror and put it in front of its face. If you can see its reflection, the head stays on. If you can't see its reflection, bring the axe down right there and then.
That's true. Yeah, never thought of that.
These people, huh?
So he agrees to meet Mina.
Dr. Smokenstein should have been dealing with this, not Dr. Van Helsing.
When he meets Mina to discuss Lucy's symptoms, and she said, look, I've been keeping a diary, and he's like, I would love to see the diary. And she's like, oh, my husband's also been keeping a diary, and he wasn't feeling well either. And he's like, I'd love to see his diary too. So he reads the 2 diaries, and he is dazzled by Harker's story. As in, like, from being, and he's like, really playing into
account of being into.
Yeah. It's ticking all the boxes for his vampire story.
Question for you. do we know for sure that this diary came from? Have they like proof positive that it's come from this Harker guy and that it hasn't been rewritten in the meantime by people like maybe Van Helsing to suit their story so that they do have that groundbreaking case that they can attach their name to?
According to Mina's diary, when she had Harker's journal, because he was like, I don't need this shit anymore, and he was like, I don't want to talk about it anymore, and she was like, look, we'll keep it. She was like, I'm going to tie it, and we put a wax seal on it, and she put a wax seal on it, and then she kind of betrayed him by being like, yeah, you can totally read his diary.
Yeah.
Bitch move. So on the 25th of September, there was a report in the Westminster Gazette, and it reported of children straying from home or not returning from playing in the evening. And they said that the children say that the bluffer lady asked them to go for a walk. And many of the children...
Bluffer?
Bluffer lady. That's just what they called her, the bluffer lady. BLOOFER.
Okay. Many
of the children that did return were returning home with varying marks on their neck. So like 2 marks on their neck. So Van Helsing sees this and he takes it to Seward and he's like, see, told you, you have to believe in it now. Like, look at this. She's definitely, she has to be the bluffer lady, Lucy. So they go to visit the most recent child that got bit. They went to go see his doctor and they said who said that it looked like a bat bite when he saw it. They go to the churchyard and they had a look in Lucy's tomb and her body is not in her coffin.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That would be the first thing I'd do. Fuck going to the doctor. I would have went straight to the graveyard, had a quick look, and if things are funny there, well then.
Mm-hmm. But there is a sleeping kid nearby her coffin. So Lucy's funeral was held on the 27th. There was a proper, she was in the coffin, but there was a proper funeral held for her. That's when Seward was like, right, okay, we believe in the vampires now, so we should probably handle it. So they spent the night in the churchyard. So it was Van Helsing, Seward, Quincy, and they were kind of wondering if he'd actually gone mad or should they be actually doing it. And so what happened was they sealed Lucy's coffin with garlic. So that she couldn't get out of the coffin at night. And they waited for her during the day.
What happens when the garlic goes off?
Well, they were only doing it overnight.
Okay. Because
then during the day...
Oh, so they were keeping the coffin out and they were rewrapping it. I thought they were just wrapping it and burying it again.
No. They sealed her in for the night. And then during the day, they opened it up and her future, who should have been husband, plunged a stake through her heart.
And what happened?
There was blood, but there was just blood.
Okay.
Basically.
So there's no proof either way. They just killed this lady.
Except for a sleeping lady, and she wasn't in the coffin when they went to go check there. So there was proof.
Yeah, but again, you have cases of people being fucking buried or being put in coffins, and they come back to life a couple of days later.
Why did she get back in to go to sleep though?
I don't know.
Do you know? There's
Good
that
question.
So they reckon then that the Count was kind of catching on to what was going on. Harker goes to track down where all the boxes went.
And did they know he was in the area at the time? Was he in the area at the time? He had these boxes.
He was in the area at the time.
Okay.
According to this. So they went to find the boxes. Harker did. And when they did trace them down to Carfax Abbey, it's in Whitby, and they said it smelled absolutely gross going into the Abbey. Absolutely fucking gross. Of all the boxes that were there now, all except one were full of rats. Yeah. Obviously, there was nobody in that box because it was nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
But then they went back again, and the boxes were gone. And they were on the way back to Transylvania.
So he retreated.
He retreated. Exactly. So Mina's starting to have bad dreams at this stage. They start traveling back across because they're like, we're going to have to kill him.
So these guys are going after him one way or the other.
We're killing him. Exactly. And Mina goes with them.
Killed one of it. They caused the death of his wife, didn't they? Lucy, that girl.
Mm-hmm.
She died. So they were making sure it didn't happen to anybody else.
Exactly.
And they had 2 men who were crazy from the fucking... Well, one that was crazy, one that's PTSD, and it would make sense that they would decide, well, if you were decent, they were going to go and solve this crime. They did have to cross state lines.
Exactly.
International lines.
Sorry, I never even said that when Harker was sick, Mina actually went off to Hungary and brought him back, like. But yeah, so when she was actually out of the country when Lucy died. But on the 1st of October, after Lucy's buried and all that, Mina writes in her journal that she is sad today and that she recalled barking dogs outside last night in a creeping fog, and that there was a vision of a white face bending over and kind of like looking out at her from the fog. And that is nearly identical to what Lucy was writing down in her journal that she was seeing.
See, after you've told me about the dancing plague hysteria, anything seems possible to me when it comes to mass hysteria.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So on the 3rd of October, according to Harker's journal, Dracula attacked Mina.
Oh.
So
we don't know a whole pile about this Dracula guy either.
We don't know a whole pile about the Dracula guy. That's it. Like that's why, like, I think Van Helsing bought so much into it, because there's scant records of it. Was it actually like Vlad the Impaler?
It's this fucking
old-timey
true crime mystery.
Exactly. Yeah. But apparently then Harker broke in, tried to rescue her, but as he tried to rescue her, he saw Dracula feeding her blood, like marking her as unclean.
Okay.
They bought into this so much that Mina was like, right, well, after that, if I start to turn, please kill me before I kill anybody else. Like, don't let me do any harm to anybody.
So these people are fully buying into the vampire thing now.
Absolutely. Fully buying.
Like Salem with the witches, they were 100% on with this is a vampire issue. We are all going to be turned into vampires or killed if we don't kill this guy first.
Now, according to Van Helsing, because she has drank his blood, she has like a link with him. Okay, so he hypnotizes her. And he's like, where are you? What do you see? And she says that it's dark and that she can hear water like lapping around her. And Van Helsing was like, well, he's obviously escaping London, because he's like, fuck this shit. Maybe it wasn't the feeding ground I thought it could be.
So that's how they knew he was on his way back to Transylvania at that time.
Exactly. And that's, obviously the one box of earth that was left, that's what he was fucking off back with.
Okay.
So they go off after him through Russia. They take about 33 days to reach proper land, I think. They knew that he'd be going by boat. So they followed him by boat. When they got to the castle, he obviously got to the castle before him, and the gypsies that he had given the letters to, Harker had given the letters to, when they got there, they realized that they were actually kind of in league, and they were trying to stop their entry to the castle. So Van Helsing and Seward, and I think it was Arthur, they kind of took up arms against the gypsies and let Harker and Mina in off through.
These English fellas will walk into someone else's country and start fucking bossing people around.
Yeah.
Typical.
Absolutely. But so they seal his coffin with communion because it is nighttime. And they, as in like communion wafers.
Okay.
And they apparently stayed up all night. And when daytime came, they did exactly what they did to Lucy. But not only did they stab him through the heart, they actually cut off his head as well.
Okay, but you say there's a possibility that this guy... No, Vlad the Impaler. So there's no chance this was Vlad the Impaler?
If you believe in men living for that long a time, or if you believe
he's
in
a fucking vampire...
But that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is...
It's a legend. It's something that's it's a... Make your own mind up in that kind of legend.
No, I like it. It was different this week. It was a bit more...
There is no... we do have more entries from Harker 7 years afterwards.
Go on.
And he was saying that there is much happiness since Dracula's death, that they had a baby boy, that they travelled to Transylvania the past summer, and Castle Dracula, where they had killed Dracula, stood desolate.
Why would you go back there? God damn.
He wrote in his diary, because he knew it was going to be something someday. He said, We ask none to believe us. This boy will someday know what a brave woman his mother is, and will later understand how some men so loved her that they did dare much for her sake. So, as in, like, you don't have to believe us, but this is what we did for this great.
I know what I saw.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I know. I like that.
I don't think I'd believe it if there wasn't the newspaper clippings.
Again, I like the story. I like the mythological and weird side to it. But at the same time, the same way I would when I'd go, if you were to go on a ghost hunt or something like that, you're always going to look for the most logical answers first. And there's a lot of stuff that I can make logical answers to because of the craziness of our world today. The fact that I could say that a lot of these traits that this Count Dracula guy seemed to show were similar to Richard Chase's.
What about the ship?
The fact that we've kind of established that PTSD could bring on, false memories or complete amnesia, which explains the guy, was there for over a month. The ship, yeah, that's a harder one to explain, I will admit. I mean, you see a dog coming off it. There's no other bodies. Obviously, the other bodies were thrown into the ocean at some point. It could have been a killer on the boat. I mean, that could have happened.
Maybe the captain was suicidal and murderous.
Maybe psychotic, I don't know. I mean, the point I'm making there is, even if that seems like a long shot that the captain went crazy and fucking lost his mind, or someone on the boat killed everybody, it's more logical than a vampire hiding in mud boxes and jumping out and killing them and hiding again. In the sense of if you were looking at it scientifically or through proper legal proceedings and evidence and DNA and all and real science that we know today, there is logical explanations for most of the things you've spoken about today. Obviously, there's some weirder shit there.
Yeah.
But as I said before, you had guys like Gilles Leray running around as well hundreds of years ago who was doing just as much fucked up shit and weird shit, So, I mean, it's not unheard of. So, whereas I like the idea of the mythological story, I would believe that this was just a genuinely sick, crazy man doing sick, crazy shit, and a lot of people who maybe their stories got bigger and crazier over time with fame and talks, and their own books and their own fucking.
You know what I think? Maybe they brought into it just the same way that Bridget Cleary's husband brought into the fairy.
Yep.
My wife's a fairy.
Or the same way I spoke about Dr. Zayas last week and buying into his own shit from listening to it long enough. Eventually memories can be altered or fucking distorted over time, and maybe that was what it is. And maybe the more, and yourself fellas in a bar having a few drinks start to fucking inflate the story a little bit, and suddenly someone's like, that would make a good book. And suddenly there's a story of these guys fighting this vampire and all this kind of stuff,
And he's a millionaire.
And if he, what was this, 1893? Hang about another 20 years, 30 years, you could get a movie deal. So, I mean...
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, that would be my thought process on it. Whereas the legend is cool, and I love all that stuff, there is logical answers for a lot of this when you compare it to modern serial killer and criminology and stuff like that.
That's it.
So, yeah, that was good.
I enjoyed that one.
Mm-hmm. We got more of you coming as well over the next couple of months.
Yay.
But next week, I will be back with a good old, really, 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 not fake, true crime horror story. Until then, you know what to do. Follow us on socials at Alive Pod and check out our Patreon at It's Alive Pod for great shows like our Mini Monsters companion show, Real Monsters, and Amy's great horrific history podcast, Playing with Bones, which a new episode just came up this week. The Crazy Royals, ?
Crazy Royals?
Yeah, Crazy Royals. Part 2, The Girls.
Is that why you said it like that? The Girls?
So that's awesome. We had fun with that one. And in 2 weeks' time, we'll have The Crazy Royals, probably exclamation mark, The Boys.
A nice little roundup of it. Yeah.
So yeah, so along with that, you can get classic episodes of our old formatted Real Monsters and Behind the Mask, and you get the whole week's Mini Monsters every Monday, all together, all in one go.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you don't have this over there, do you? shit, I gotta do all this week. All that, and you get ad-free access to our main show and the weekend update, all for just $5 a month. That's on Patreon at It's Alive Live Pod. And now for the first 7 days, you get it free, so it costs you nothing. Go check it out. We'll be back next Wednesday, with more tales from the Horrorverse. It's Alive podcast, all the guts and gore with none of the guilt. See you all next time. Same Alive time, same Horrorverse channel. Okay, love you. Bye bye.
Bye.
You didn't have any of those lines. See you later.
Love you.